Okay, I usually don't read prepared, so I apologize. And you guys have copies of the prepared statements. My name is Michael Corwin. I am the Executive Director of Independent ISPAC, and I thank you all for coming. And we will be talking about our updated investigation into the Downs corruption. And at this point, I do believe we have violation of the law. And that's why we chose to go ahead and hold a press conference. So, as you all know, magicians call it sleight of hand. It's the ability to get people to look one way as they manipulate the process in another way. People are very happy with that. They don't look too closely and off they go. Susana and Nate Gentry took a page from the Magician's Handbook when they came out with their tough anti-corruption bill, all the while covering for the corruption that was going on here in the Downs deal. And you'll notice I'm actually using the affirmative terms here today. I think our research bears that out. While the others were distracted and looked away, we stuck with it in Independent ISPAC. And for those of you who don't know, I've been a professional investigator for 24 years. I've prepared cases in California and New Mexico, and we've dug really deep, and we have found, I believe, conclusive information that shows there is violation of the law. So what I want to talk about a little bit briefly is in 2006, D.D. Feldman had a bill, SB 344 or 0344, and that bill covered prohibited time frames for when gifts or contributions or other things of value could be given to candidates or their employees, or politicians, political, public officials, and their employees. The bill was signed into law in 2006, and it is the law of our land right now. What's very interesting about this bill and what really caught our attention is it does not deal just with the procurement process where there are RFPs, but it deals also with sole source contracts. And it specifically prohibits anything during the negotiation process and the approval process of a sole source contract. Now, why is that important? The Downs, they worked on 2 contracts. Now, what's interesting is the contracts were for the same things. They were between the Downs and the state of New Mexico, and they governed the operations of the Downs, the racing, and the racino. And what happened was the 1-year sole source extension contract was designed to give them a chance to work out the longer term, and in this case what became the 25-year contract. The sole source contract was actually in negotiation through the end of the Richardson administration and carried out in different capacities all the way until at least up through July 24th. And we know in fact that the sole source contract signed by the Martinez administration was signed on June 1st. On June 14th, she publicly announced she was going to put that onto the call of the special session for September for approval by the legislature. One could argue that, okay, the sole source contract from December that the State Fair passed on in December, which they said we're going to let Governor Martinez choose what to do with the Downs contract, that you could argue in theory, although it's still the state of New Mexico, that perhaps the sole source period stopped from them until Dan Morning was hired in February to take over negotiation for the sole source. So from February through July, at least July 24th, they were trying to negotiate the sole source 1-year extension. Matter of fact, it was an attempt to get the 3rd extension. There were 2 campaign contributions that came in while Governor Martinez was governor of New Mexico, while her administration was negotiating the sole source contracts from the majority owners of the Downs, Mr. Windham and Mr. Turner. The first contribution came in, and we've got the dates right here on the materials, and I'll double back and look at those. And these were to Susana PAC, by the way, which is unquestionably Susana's PAC. The letters that get sent out from Susana's PAC say, this is why I founded Susana's PAC. It's in her name. She gave the first $5,000. Jay McCleskey runs it for her. It is not separate and distinct from her. It is not an independent expenditure committee. It is her PAC. So the first contribution came in May 6th of 2011 from Windham and Turner through their company Brazos Land and Cattle. The second one came in on July 7th through Sunray Gaming LLC, which is owned by Windham and Turner. They are listed on the papers as an LLC has members. They are members of the LLC and co-managers of Sunray Gaming. And by the way, when ISPAC did our IPRA request for all of the documents from the Downs in response to the RFP, the documents that they would give us, and they withheld a whole bunch of stuff saying it was proprietary, but they supposedly gave us all of the campaign contributions. There was no campaign disclosure for the Sunray Gaming contributions of $5,000 on July 7th. Under state law, that alone is enough to void the contract. Now they may come along and say, oh, we had an oversight, we missed it, but we asked for everything and we didn't get it. We got other contributions, but not that. And keep in mind, I'm not talking about campaign contributions pre-election. I'm talking about while she was sitting governor and the ultimate decider of this contract. As we know, she headed the Board of Finance Authority and she is in charge of that, and they rule this contract. We also have heard from Tom Tinnen and Charlotte Rohde, both Republicans, both appointed by Susana Martinez, that she controlled this whole process. There's no two ways about it, ifs, ands, or buts. One last thing about the 7/7/11 contribution from Sunray Gaming. It came actually after the date that the RFP was set for posting. The RFP was set, and we have emails, and you will find those in your documents, was set for July 5th. It was to be posted and made public and put out to bid on that day. Magically, it was delayed, and in came another contribution. That raises serious questions about, did they postpone the actual formal pendency of that bid process in order to take more money in? We don't have subpoena power. We've done all of this without subpoena power. So I don't know the full answer. The Martinez administration has claimed no documents exist about a lot of things that we think make no sense. We haven't gotten those yet. At some point, and I'll talk about that a little bit, we think that there should be someone with subpoena power. But beyond that, going back to the December 28th when the sole source lease was pending approval under Richardson, and the State Fair Commission said, and this is December 28th, guys, we're going to let the governor-elect decide what to do with this. She can keep it, she can toss it, she can modify it, but we're going to leave that to the governor because she's going to be governor in 3 days. On December 30th, 2 days after that announcement was made, Windham and Turner gave $5,000 from Brazos Land and Cattle to Governor Martinez's campaign fund. This is almost 2 months after she was elected as governor, and clearly after the state fair said she is going to be the responsible party and makes a decision. That sole source contract was not negated. That's 3 campaign contributions from the owners, the majority owners of the Downs, to the decision maker during the prohibited period of time under state law. To me, that's pretty clear cut. So, a couple of things to go beyond that. This was very, very interesting. Tom Tinnen, and those of you may remember that the Martinez administration claimed there was a fallout with Tinnen over him wanting to be one of the members of the evaluation committee, the committee that was going to evaluate the RFPs. Turns out, in fact, that from what we understand, Tom Tinnen actually forwarded at Dan Morning's request a list of highly qualified evaluators for the Downs RFP. It's also our understanding that those people were approved, but that's not who evaluated the RFP. Susana Martinez chose 3 different people to evaluate the RFP, one of them being Charles Chuck Gara, who, now we covered this in our initial report somewhat, but just briefly, In February, Martinez hired Gara for a $91,000 a year job. Gara had been in commercial real estate, which we know tanked, was totally in the toilet. She gave him that nice job. Gara hired Jay McCleskey back when Gara ran a pro-business PAC trying to get rid of all the city councilors in Albuquerque. He paid Jay McCleskey over $20,000 to run that PAC for him. He and McCleskey go very far back. They're very tight. Beyond that, we also know that Gara gave $1,500 to Darren White in Darren White's campaign, and lo and behold, the Downs brought Darren White in 2 weeks before the RFP deadline, and they didn't bring it in quietly, you know, just maybe having his proposal, supposedly for security, submitted. They issued a press release, they had a press conference announcing Darren's arrival. So that was clearly a message, and we of course know that Darren did a commercial for Susana, and that Susana put him onto her transition team and also put him on the Judicial Standards Commission. He had to leave that after the whole fiasco with his wife, but Susana and Darren are obviously quite close as well, and keeping in mind that Susana is dictating what's going on. Gara also is a person that is fully capable of rigging something. The city council in 2003, Gara had gotten himself appointed to the task force on the Planned Growth Strategies Task Force. I apologize for that. And the city council voted 6-1 to remove him because they said that he got himself placed on the task force to tank it. Not to try to work with it, but to gut it and tank it. And he is the kind of person, he's been demonstrated publicly. I'm not making an accusation about somebody. The city council made this back in 2003, that he is willing to tank something. And in particular, he wanted to tank the Planned Growth Strategies because of his contributors to his pro-business pact wanted that to go away.